lives.
You didn't give in to that star or starlet desire to constantly talk?
Well, you know, when you don't have anything really interesting and insightful to say, it's best to keep your mouth shut. And even sometimes, keep your mouth shut anyway.
Hollywood could sell a rumor almost as easily as it sold a movie ticket, and few stars proved that better than Raquel Welch. She burst onto the scene looking like a fantasy dreamed up by a publicity department, and once that image took hold, the gossip followed her everywhere. Every co-star became a possible lover, every feud became a headline, and every photograph seemed to invite a new story. The strange part is that Raquel was always fighting two battles at once. She wanted to be taken seriously, but the world kept treating her like a poster first and a person second. Along the way, she was linked to handsome leading men, trapped in messy productions, and pushed into a public image that made even ordinary interactions look scandalous. And before we get started, drop a comment and tell us which old Hollywood rumor you think the public got most wrong, the romance stories or the diva stories, because both followed Raquel Welch for years. The image trap.
Well, I like sex, but
Well, they always put that symbol. They always put that symbol on somebody who becomes successful in pictures. The new sex goddess or sex symbol. Does it rankle you a little bit?
Not anymore. In the beginning, I used to get a little bit perturbed because it seemed to, I don't know, there seemed to be a stereotyped idea of what a sex symbol was, sort of vapid and not too bright and not with much ability or...
Doesn't hold true, really.
Well, I don't know if it does or not, but it's kind of, it makes you feel that you're limited in some way, and so you kind of fight against it, but I don't think that you can really fight against an image. It's something that you can't control, don't you think?
Raquel Welch did not just become famous, she exploded into view. By the mid-60s, she was suddenly everywhere, on magazine covers, posters, and billboards, all before many people could even name one of her films. That was the gift and the curse. Her fame arrived through image first, performance second. She had talent, ambition, and years of dance and stage training behind her, but Hollywood quickly learned that one photograph of Raquel in a fur bikini could do more work than an entire press campaign. Once that happened, the machine around her stopped asking who she was and started deciding what she should represent. She was no longer just an actress trying to break through. She was the bombshell of the moment. That image also created a very particular kind of gossip. If Raquel stood next to a handsome man, stories spread. If she worked with a famous co-star, people assumed sparks. If she resisted being packaged a certain way, she was called difficult. The same look that made her a star also made her a magnet for rumors. To make matters even more complicated, Patrick Curtis was beside her through this rise, not just as her manager, but as the architect of much of the Raquel phenomenon. He pushed her image hard, guarded her publicly, and helped turn her into an international sensation. Their marriage and business partnership only added to the sense that Raquel's private life and public life were constantly tangled together. Crushes, rejections, and Hollywood smoke.
Go from microscopic size, and now I'm going to be chased by dinosaurs. I mean, what's wrong with this picture?
One of the earliest men linked to Raquel was Stephen Boyd, her co-star in Fantastic Voyage. This one came straight from her own recollections. She openly admitted she had a crush on him and even tried to make a move when they were both in New York. According to her, Boyd gently shut the door on that possibility, and she later concluded he was simply not interested in women. That story says a lot about how Raquel's image worked. To the public, she looked like the woman no man would refuse. Yet here was Raquel herself recalling insecurity, nerves, and rejection. It's one of those moments that breaks the myth a little. The world saw confidence and heat. She remembered feeling out of place among experienced actors and not nearly as sure of herself as people assumed. There were other famous names around her almost immediately. She worked with Marcello Mastroianni and spoke warmly of him. She was considered for major parts, courted by studios, and pushed into glamorous European productions that often cared more about her appeal than her range. The result was a strange career pattern where she kept meeting major stars, but the talk around her kept drifting towards sex appeal instead of craft. Even when there was no confirmed romance, the mood around Raquel was always suggestive. That was the era. Publicists knew mystery sold. The press knew beauty sold even better. So ordinary admiration, professional chemistry, or a one-sided crush could all get folded into the legend of Raquel Welch as a woman constantly surrounded by secret lovers. Marriage, control, and the men around her. If one man shaped the early Raquel narrative more than any other, it was Patrick Curtis. He was not just the husband in the background. He was deeply involved in the business, the publicity, the contracts, the presentation, and the daily management of her career. On some sets, he was so present that people noticed him nearly as much as they noticed her. That created tension. Some people credited Curtis for helping build her career. Others thought he was manipulative, controlling, and far too involved. Raquel herself later gave a mixed view, saying he helped her, guided her, and in some ways exploited the situation, even if not always consciously. That's not exactly a love story for the ages. It's more like a marriage built inside a pressure cooker. Her stardom also meant that marriage did not calm the gossip. It often increased it. When she made Fathom, there were reports of friction with Tony Franciosa. When she appeared in major productions, the press stayed alert for any sign of romantic trouble, jealousy, or competition. Raquel could get married in Paris and still have the ceremony turned into a media circus. That was the odd rhythm of her life. Even the real relationship at the center of her rise could not quiet the fantasy stories around her. In some ways, it almost fed them. If Curtis was managing the image, then people assumed there must be secrets behind the image too. Hollywood always prefers a backstage story to a straightforward one. Sinatra, Reynolds, Brown.
What could have made your relationship with Miss Welch go more pleasantly?
Maybe if her husband wasn't there.
By the late 60s, Raquel was acting opposite some of the biggest male names in entertainment, and each pairing came with its own story. With Frank Sinatra in Lady in Cement, the angle was not scandal, but fascination. Raquel later admitted she was so taken with Sinatra's presence that she missed an essential part of her own character and only realized much later that the woman she played was an alcoholic. That's almost funny, but it also shows how powerful Sinatra's aura was. Then came Burt Reynolds and Jim Brown in 100 Rifles, where the drama got much rougher. Reports from that production painted a chaotic picture. Brown later complained about the entire operation revolving around Raquel's image, while other accounts claimed the feud ran much deeper and turned nasty fast. Reynolds described himself as a referee between the two. This is also where one of the wilder romantic rumors appears. Raquel was linked to Spanish actor Sancho Gracia, with gossip claiming Patrick Curtis discovered them together and chased Gracia with a pistol. Whether that story was pure Hollywood folklore or something closer to reality, it became part of the Raquel legend because it fit the image people already had of her life as glamorous, volatile, and full of combustible men. What stands out is how often Raquel's work got swallowed by the talk around it. 100 Rifles was a major film with major stars and some trailblazing elements, yet the behind-the-scenes feuds, image battles, and affair rumors became the real story. That happened to her again and again. When gossip became the career.
During the decade between 1935 and 1945, no unimportant film was made in the United States. During those years, the entire range of human, which is to say American legend, was put on film.
By the time Myra Breckinridge arrived, Raquel's off-screen reputation was almost as famous as her face. The production was a circus. Mae West treated the set like a battlefield. Farrah Fawcett later said she found the experience miserable and remembered Raquel as harsh and intimidating. Others said the director stirred up conflict on purpose. Everyone seemed to have a version. The feud with Mae West became the most famous piece of that mess. A costume dispute turned into a standoff, and neither woman wanted to give an inch. It was part ego, part image, part generational power struggle. Mae saw herself as the original sex symbol. Raquel was the newer one. That was never going to be a peaceful handoff. At the same time, people around Raquel kept returning to the same contradiction. She wanted to be respected as a serious actress, but she also understood exactly what sold, and she protected that star package fiercely. Some collaborators admired that discipline. Others found it exhausting. That split helped create the stories that never left her. So, did Raquel Welch really reveal a neat list of secret celebrity lovers? Not exactly, but what her life actually shows is something more interesting. She was linked to crushes, rumors, feuds, flirtations, and a few stories that may have grown taller with age. But more than anything, she lived inside a Hollywood system that treated a beautiful woman as public property and then acted shocked when she tried to control the narrative herself. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Raquel Welch was mostly misunderstood by a gossip-hungry industry, or were the stories about her behavior and romances revealing the real person behind the image? Let us know in the comments section below.